Well, good afternoon, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. This is Harry Brelsford from SMB Nation. Thank you for joining us on the weekly webinar. As I've done in the past, I'm coming to you live from KEXP, the public radio station. I'm in their lobby in Seattle at the Seattle Center. Many of you know the Seattle Center is where the Space Needle is. So that's kind of fun to be at a radio station actually doing a webinar. Today we have our old friends from TransVault, but before I get to that, a little bit of housekeeping. Tomorrow is our final workshop of the season. So tomorrow we're in Austin, Texas. Still time to sign up to learn about Azure and Office 365. It's Tour to Cloud, all one word, spelled a lot like the Tour de France. So Tour to Cloud. You can go to the SMB Nation homepage also to see the logo and click over to the Tour de Cloud. Join us in Austin tomorrow for a full day. And then, boy, howdy, we call it a year, and we go straight into planning. A couple of things coming up in the new year, a startup tour that I can't really talk about yet, and then also an Azure 2-day in Seattle in the spring. So an Azure 2-day in Seattle in the spring. Some things on the planning board. But with that said, let's get going with TransVault, the conversation about migrations and PSTs. We have Steve Douglas. Steve, we were just having a good conversation offline about the lovely and historic city of Bath in what I would call England, I guess. Forgive me if I get the province wrong, but been there a couple times. Zinstra, a high-tech company, is a friend of ours out there. And if I got it right, either you or your colleague are near Bath today. Is that correct, sir?
Hi there, Harry. Yeah, I am just in the countryside, beautiful countryside outside of the historic city of Bath, kind of squeezed between Bath and Bristol.
Perfect. Well, sir, you have the screen control. Let's jump right into it. Let's have a conversation. We have a couple poll questions. We got a lot to do.
Great, thanks very much. So yeah, my name is Steve Douglas, and welcome to this session. Thank you very much for joining us. You can see from my bio, which I'm not going to bore you with by reading out, that I'm the proven guy at TransVault that's been entrusted to tell you about a little bit about TransVault, some of our cool technology, and to present you with a solution for your email archive migration. And today we're going to talk broadly about email archive migrations, but then focus in on the specifics of PST files and distributed PST files across your organization, in particular getting those into Office 365. So before we begin down the more technical slope, let me tell you a bit about TransVault, the organization. We were established in 2006. And we were actually the inception point for the email archive migration market. And being the first, as a consequence, our tenure and success rate is unmatched within this market. We were the first, we're the most established, and we're the best. So we were the first archive migration software vendor to be certified by both Microsoft and Veritas, of course, formerly Symantec. We've delivered in excess of 1,300 successful migration projects, with hundreds more projected for 2017, and we have a very large-looking order book for the rest of 2016 as well, as the race to the cloud really does continue to accelerate, and we're seeing a bigger and bigger proportion of all of our business with customers moving to Office 365. And so we're helping those customers to get to Office 365 by unlocking their migrations, by taking care of the legacy emails, which are often a significant barrier to entry. We think that to date, we've influenced the migration of over 3 million seats of users being moved to Office 365 for different organizations. So subsequently, TransVault is a mature, proven entity, both in terms of the organization, our support services, and the software that we deliver. And you can see on screen now just a few of the companies that have trusted TransVault in recent times with their migrations. So let's just talk a little bit about the TransVault product suite. So we've got 3 different products that we're going to talk about today. The first of these is TransVault Migrator. And this is our flagship product. It's an application for migrating data between different third-party email archiving systems. So it's a tool for enabling organizations deliver their broader strategic objective of being wherever it is they're trying to go. And we'll come back to that point later on. So it's a highly scalable, SQL-driven, multi-server architecture. It's very mature. It's delivered hundreds of migrations, moving probably in excess of 15 petabytes of emails. It's feature-rich to handle the greatest project complexity, and like all of our products, it features what we call TransVault Cloud Stream, our ingestion capability for migrating to Office 365, which achieves the fastest possible speeds. And again, I'm going to come back to that point later on through the presentation. Then we've got TransVault Insight. Insight is the migration application for distributed PST archives. It's an enterprise-scale distributed architecture built from the ground up to be able to migrate to Exchange and Office 365 primary mailboxes or in-place archives. So it's specifically designed for that purpose of shifting your data back into Exchange, getting PSTs, getting the data out of PSTs, putting it back in Exchange. It has unique message level analysis and control, and it can perform single hop migrations from your user desktops into your endpoint target. So in this case, it's going to be Office 365 more often than not. It's also able to deliver deduplication, and it's Insight that we're going to focus on a lot more, and the issues around PSTs throughout this presentation. And then finally, we have our product TransVault Sprint. And Sprint is an application for migrating data from Enterprise Vault or EAS or from message files directly into Office 365. It's Migrator Lite, so it's a really simple end-user driven migration tool at the lower end for lower cost migrations, powered by the same TransVault server as Migrator, but it delivers the most needed feature sets for the most common migration paths. So it's for the really simple, easy migrations, almost commoditizing the archive migration market. And the positioning of the product is really simple. It's called TransVault Sprint, and the strapline is Sprint to Office 365.
Hey, I like it. I like it. That's pretty cool.
So we've seen a little bit of our product set. You can see that TransVault really has the whole range of email archive migrations covered. However, one of the main issues that we see, particularly with small, medium businesses, is legacy email data held in distributed PST files. So PSTs are a notorious file format used to store emails. They're often created by users for local and offline storage, or because of Microsoft Exchange's auto archive feature. That's what we're really going to focus on today, is this problem with PST files and distributed PST files across an organization's users. And the question is, should you stay or should you go? Should you leave the PSTs where they are? Can users stay using them on premises, or should you move them up to Office 365 with the rest of your data when you make that move to Office 365? Do you really need them in the cloud? Well, I'm going to run through a few reasons why we think that you should move these data to Office 365, although we're probably a little bit biased on this subject, but we see customers struggling with PST data day to day. This is what we do, and we really believe that collecting all of your data in Office 365 is the way to go. So number one, PSTs are rarely backed up. Because by nature, they're normally stored on a user's workstation, on their hard drive, or even often stored on removable drives, flash drives, temporary hard drives. And so they're really, really hard for an admin to keep track of, know where they are, and be able to back them up. And if the data isn't being backed up, then it's not safe. Secondly, PSTs in their nature present a compliance issue for the reasons that I've just explained in point 1. Whether it's due to policy or sharing of sensitive data, confidential data that needs to be kept to certain group views, the ease of saving them anywhere, anytime represents a non-compliant setting right from the start. And that's a real risk for organizations in certain verticals like finance, legal, pharmaceutical, government, where they are very heavily regulated. PSTs are readily prone to corruption because the original file format had a 2 GB size limit. Going beyond that, it's likely to introduce file corruption, which extends further if users are sharing the PST files. They're just flaky in their very nature. They weren't really designed. PST files as a format, as a technical entity, weren't really designed to deliver the function that an awful lot of users and organizations are actually employing them for. And so, of course, if your data gets corrupted, it's inaccessible, then you're going to have data loss, and that's dreadful for both the organization, for the compliance reasons, but also for the end user who wants to be able to access the data in those files.
Hey, Steve, if you don't mind, I had many conversations back a generation ago when Microsoft had the back office product, really nice SKU, and it came with SQL Server. And I never understood why Exchange wasn't based on SQL Server. It would have sold a hell of a lot of SQL. And, SQL can run an airline. I mean, SQL can handle what you throw at it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go on, but I just wanted to share that back office, man. It was all there.
Sure was. And so coming on to point 4, PSTs are an admin's e-discovery nightmare because they're portable, easy to save, they can replicate, even email them. You can attach them to an email and send them on. So they're an administrator's nightmare. 5 is really a derivative of point 3, where I mentioned corruption, and it persists further if users are sharing a file. They could access it at the same time, make edits or change it, and PSTs are not really meant to be shared, or they're not meant to be used in this way. They're not really meant to be easily shared. So there's a bit of an overlap there. 6 is more of a factor in today's highly mobile world. We access email from multiple devices, locations, and points using mobile phones now. And I was actually at I was at Thames Valley Park, the Microsoft headquarters in the UK today with the AZURE team, and they were talking about organizations just giving mobile phones to their users now with docking stations where the mobile phone plugs into dual screens, and they're just working off these Windows phones, in effect working as their laptops. And that's the kind of world that we're living in today. And so it's not appropriate to have PST files as a repository for key information in that kind of an environment. And then finally, point 7, they present an increased cost in doing business because the very flexibility that they deliver opens a business up to too many gaps. Okay, so that's some of the problems. We're going to just take a short pause now and jump into our first poll question. So just checking you're all still awake out there. Do you have an issue with PST files? I think, Harry, you're going to do some magic here, is that right? So do you have an issue with PST?
Gentlemen, sorry about that. I had a technical difficulty. I know you're at the poll. I'm looking at, forgive me, gentlemen, if we could have people vote with the question feature, if you could put yes or no or not sure over or in the chat window. I'll fix the poll. Not quite sure what happened. Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I can hear you fine.
Yeah, stand by. Folks, for the first one, if you could use the comment feature, the chat feature, put it yes, no, or not sure. I'll fix the second one. Very strange, my friend. Just prepared all that this morning. I will try one of the poll questions. Let's see if it comes up. No, I'm not satisfied with that. Forgive me, gentlemen. And if we look at the chat feature, if we're getting the answers, again, we could do a yes, no, or not sure in chat, so we get a rough number.
Shall I press on, Harry?
Yeah, please do. Please do. I'm going to fix the polls. Please do.
Okay. So we're going to talk in a bit more detail then about TransVault insights. So into the webinar proper now, and how TransVault makes it easy to move PSTs as our Move My PSTs initiative promises we do easily and efficiently via our pioneering technology. So from your choice to attend today, we guess you're asking yourselves, what's unique about TransVault Insight, and how does it make the shift to the cloud easy, reliable, and fast? And the answer is that it's all in the very makeup of the product. Scalability isn't limited by data size or volume or complexity of storage infrastructure. Insight has built-in tracking so that you can shift with confidence and provide evidence of what you've moved, where, when, and any issues encountered, so that you have full chain of custody when you're moving your data from your user's workstation up to Office 365. You get control over your project and all of your data with content-level, policy-based filtering. So any custom policies that you have around data retention can be taken into account during the analysis phase and then during migration of the data to Office 365. Our results are as seamless as they can be for your end users. So that minimizes disruption to the day-to-day workflow. And what we really understand is that when an organization is moving data to Office 365, it may be they're moving primary mailboxes, SharePoint installations, there could be other applications going up to exploit software as a service as a wrapper around Office 365 and AZURE services. There could be a lot of change going on in an organization. The last thing that those organizations need is disruption to the end users and their accessibility of data at any given time. We make the move as seamless as possible, delivering the data directly into the appropriate place. Now, nobody really sets out to perform a migration as part of their strategy, right? When you move, for example, if you're moving house, you don't wake up excited at the prospect of finding a removals firm that's going to move your sofa and your kitchen table from your old house to your new house. But what you do love is moving into your new house, realizing the vision that you've been dreaming about. And so a migration, whether it be your email archive or whether it be your furniture in your house, is a means to an end. And the key thing in doing it is to do it as quickly as you can. And when you unpack your goods at the other end, your antique vase that was handed down from generation to generation, you unpack it at the other end and it's as good as new. And this is really why Insight is underpinned by a number of the capabilities that it has. And one of these is TransVault CloudStream. CloudStream is a unique Office 365 ingestion protocol that is simply the fastest way of migrating email archives up to Office 365. And by using a TransVault product with CloudStream included, what we're doing is enabling your company to move on to its broader strategy as quickly as possible. The shorter the lead time to get your data into Office 365, the better for your organization. Now, we've delivered over 1,200, 1,300 actually now it is, sometimes very complex and challenging migration projects. And these have shaped us and made us an expertly engineering-led organization. And as a consequence, our experience is unparalleled in dealing with the technical complexities around moving the data, resolving issues with, say, data corruptions in the source. Selective by nature, we have entrusted our solutions only to the very best of the best in terms of our network of experienced professional performance partners. We're always looking to add to the distinguished list of partners who support our software by supporting customers delivering their migrations using it. But one thing that you can do is ensure that if you use TransVault, we're a 100% channel model, so you get local expertise, you get a choice of expertise, and you know that you're going to get a partner who's been certificated by TransVault's highest standards to be able to deliver your migration project. The business of delivering migrations, whether mailbox or legacy, PST files, third-party archives, is very specialized. And that speciality demands the best of breeds. So why is the business of migrating, or more importantly for this audience, the business of migrating PST files so specialist? Well, let's look at some of the problems of PSTs again. So PSTs are likely to be running wild in your on-premise environment. What should be secure data is on memory sticks, it's on users' PCs, and it's at risk of being left on the train or the subway, or leaving it in a coffee shop or something like that. And this can be particularly secure data. But this is what you're actually looking to achieve. As Benjamin Franklin once said, a place for everything and everything in its place. And he didn't append that with, except for PST files, right? So, what we're aiming to do is to deliver you a nice, tidy, neat solution. Okay, it's time to introduce our next poll question. I don't know whether we're going to be able to do this one, but let's just take a look.
Yeah, you know what? Can you please go a slide ahead? I'm almost there. I found the problem is Chrome was not saving the updates I made earlier, and Firefox is. Steve, if I could have you hop one ahead, and I'm just seconds away, and I'll bring you right back.
Awesome. Yep, no problem at all. So, so what are the benefits of TransVault Insight then? Well, getting to that nice and tidy post-migration view becomes a reality by engaging with TransVault Insight, the product. As you saw in my previous slide, your network can be a mess with PSTs roaming around, and you can maximize your cloud investment by moving your PSTs to Office 365 in a nice, orderly way. PSTs can be like Russian dolls. Backups of backups moved by a user from PC to file share without really knowing too much about what they're doing or why. And this is what I used to do before I started working for TransVault and learned what PSTs are and the implications of having them. Back then, before I started working at TransVault, I didn't actually know what a PST file was. And my mailbox was quite small. We had limited capacity on the mailboxes, like a lot of small, medium-sized businesses do. And so often I'd arrive at work in the morning and see a warning message that I'd exceeded my mailbox quota, and it would ask me would I like to archive some of the content. This may be a familiar scenario to a lot of you listening. And again, not really knowing what I was doing, I'd just click through some forms. A little dialogue would appear asking me, do I want to archive? And I'd click yes, 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 and out go the emails. Sometimes I put them on my C drive, sometimes to the home drive on the network, creating problems on top of problems, and creating a backup of a backup and repeating the exercise with different amounts of data, and then not being able to reconnect Outlook to those PST files, not knowing why when I work from home I didn't have access to my PST files. So what Insight lets you do is find the PST files, understand who they belong to, deduplicate the content so you can deduplicate multiple copies of the same message and then move them to where they belong in the user's mailboxes in Office 365.
Steve, whenever you're ready.
Cool. So let's go back to our poll question.
Thank you.
So is your business currently planning to migrate to Microsoft Office 365 or to another cloud platform perhaps? So you've got options, yes, I'm in the research phase, yes, I'm in the planning phase, yes, we're in progress, or we've actually completed our migration, maybe, therefore doing research, or no, I just had nothing better to do but to attend this webinar.
There we go, a little bit of that British humor, a little Monty Python humor in there somewhere. Folks, while you're completing that, once again, my apologies. What has occurred is there's a bug with Chrome not saving the poll questions, and it was going to show you some older poll questions, but I went to Firefox, we fixed it. Also, be sure to use the questions capability in your panel to ask your questions. We'll get to those in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And let's have the results pop up. We have 10% yes in the research phase. We have 20% yes in progress or completed. We have 30% maybe, therefore doing research. And we have 40% no, just have nothing better to do but attend this webinar. I love it. Steve, please continue, my friend.
Good stuff.
Back to you. There you go. You have control.
So, and so by doing this discovery and tidy up, you can further refine what you want to take or leave behind using message level policy analysis. So we can use any of the items of metadata on the individual messages that sit within the PST file. We're drilling down to that extent to be able to analyze messages, determine what the content is, whether it's valuable to you, whether or not you want to take it, whether you want to leave it, manage it centrally, deduplicate, as I say, any copies, again, on any of the properties of the message, so subject, senders, sent date, recipients, all of those fields can be used to run policy analysis and to deduplicate messages. We've got a bunch of supporting tools that make the project management really simple, and everyone is kept fully up to speed, understanding everything about the project with audit reports, chain of custody, error handling, the full bag of everything you need to keep on top of the project. So now you know about TransVault Insight's features and benefits. If you had to build a case for yourself or your leadership, or maybe introduce it in your services arsenal, how would you be going about describing the problem that TransVault Insight solves? Well, we've got a slide here that we can talk you through that. So TransVault Insight gives you the power to permanently and massively reduce costs. So you can lower your hardware or software footprint via the removal of expensive infrastructure and its maintenance. We've got support for a better legal footing and stature. So it removes the cost risk associated with regulatory compliance failure. And that's probably one of the biggest risks with PST files. And I really can't emphasize this point enough. Organizations that don't understand what data they're in possession of, where it is, do I dare mention Hillary Clinton? I don't know, maybe it's a sore subject right now, but you know, I think we really can't emphasize enough the risk of not understanding your email data. You know, we've seen reports that businesses reckon that, you know, a huge proportion of their company intellectual property resides within emails these days, not in other types of documentation. And so understanding where that data is and the compliance risk is hugely important. Then there's the migration cost. You've got to understand the cost of the migration. Manual projects are extremely hard, unpredictable. It's very difficult to track progress. There's a lack of fail-safes for loss of connectivity. If you're trying to, bundle a PST up to Office 365 and the connection drops, do you know how far it got? What data was migrated? What data wasn't? Probably not. Then you've got to start the whole thing again. So a product like Insight removes the complexity around project delivery and the potential cost around complications with those projects. And of course, you want to maximize your return on investment from the cloud. Having invested in the cloud, you want to fully exploit its storage offering and accessibility. There are license types for Office 365 that give you unlimited storage. So just get all your data up there and have it looked after. It removes the risk of data loss because PSTs are so fragile and prone to corruption. It adds visibility, so you can understand what you've got, what state it's in, what it's going to take to get it migrated, and how the project is progressing. But most importantly, an automated approach like this puts you in control of what you're doing. And you know, we all like to be in control, right? So it gets your data under company control rather than in the hands of the individual users, and it gets all your data into the cloud. And PSTs are often ignored during a mailbox or archive move, so it's important to consider them. Simply stated, TransVault Insight makes you the data enforcer of all of your message data and your intellectual property.
Hey, Steve, I think I see some additional questions up there for your colleague on the line. Gentlemen, would you prefer to ask the questions now, or would you prefer to wait? I think I see one or two up there.
Well, I've got, I think I've just got one or two slides left. So why don't we just finish off with a quick overview of the architecture of Insight, and then we'll have plenty of time to dive into the questions.
Perfect.
Okay, so just a quick overview of the components of Insight and just how it manages to scale to your organization. So Insight, the components of Insight, for those of you who are more technical and want to understand how it's going to deploy across your organization, we have a SQL database that sits there and runs the transactions, and it's really the IP behind the migration sits in the database. We have the master component. The master component runs the ship, so it's interfacing with the database, interfacing with the user interface, and therefore interacting with you, the user, prompting commands through the user interface down to the master. The master then will distribute them out to multiple controllers that are going to be sitting on Windows servers, and each controller can have multiple agents, and each of your agents can sit on an individual user's workstation. So you can easily see how you can deploy this across an organization with multiple agents reporting back to multiple controllers reporting back to your single master, all the data being housed up in the database there. And one of the great things about Insight is that you can actually deploy that architecture up in Microsoft Azure. So by deploying the database, the master, the console, and the controllers up in Azure, and just having very light footprint of the agents on the individual users' workstations, and being able to do a silent deployment of those agents onto users' workstations without the user even knowing that they're there, you can scale this out horizontally in Azure to create a massive infrastructure for huge performance gains across your organization. And if you're a global organization, if you're a multi-location organization, then you can put this stuff in the Azure instance, the Azure server farm that's closest to you. And so you can really maximize the power of the best Microsoft kit to deliver the best possible PST migration. Okay, so that's all I have to say for my scheduled presentation. So shall we dive out and take some questions?
Yep, sounds good. Steve, number two, would you like to try?
Hello, everyone. So I've been monitoring your questions. Thank you for all the ones that have come in so far. Steve, a question we get quite regularly with these webinars. This person is looking for a sort of difference with tools such as binary tree. Can you do the whole live mailbox versus archive moves for us?
Yeah, sure. So there's with email messaging, there are two significant components. There's tackling the primary mailbox, so the exchange system, or if you're dealing with TransVault, we can deal with notes. But there's the exchange system itself, and there's Microsoft tooling. There's a large number of organizations out there who will provide Microsoft tooling to be able to switch your mailboxes up to Office 365 nice and quickly and easily. Then the second component is the third-party archiving systems, taking data out of your mailboxes and storing it elsewhere, either in a third-party archiving system like Enterprise Vault is the most common. There's EMC products like SourceOne and Email Extender. There are some cloud-based archiving systems like ev.cloud, Mimecast, there's Quest Archive Manager. There's a whole raft of these third-party archiving systems that will take the data out of your mailbox. They're typically much bigger. Typically there's issues with the data. It's been around for a lot longer, and the migrations are a lot more complicated. And for those sorts of migrations, you need a specialist product like TransVault to be able to deliver that migration. So we specialize only in the data that's in the archive, not data that's in the already in the user's mailboxes in Exchange.
Excellent answer, thank you very much. This is also a phenomenal question. How does this compare to PST Capture from Microsoft? The implementation seems similar, server with reporting agents. The extensions for deduping are promising sounding as well, this person says.
Yeah, so again, maybe I'm biased. We've road tested the Microsoft tool, and from our perspective, it doesn't compare. So the Microsoft tool simply doesn't scale in the same way, and doesn't deal with troubleshooting and connectivity issues and batching in quite the same way. But you're absolutely right to mention things like deduplication as a significant advantage. So we do find that there are multiple copies of messages out there for any given user, for shared users. People move emails around all the time, and for one project for one of the major banks, we actually created a fake journal for them by deduplicating across users. So we were able to take all of the PST files and deduplicate absolutely everything regardless of the user, so that they just had one instance of any given message, and then they just fired that out to their target. I think they were actually returning to a third-party archiving system rather than Office 365 in that case. But that's the kind of it's components like policy analysis, understanding the content of the message. What PST Capture is going to do is just take your PST file as an entity, take it from point A and shove it in point B. What we do is we look inside the PST, we crack it open, even if it's in use, even if it's password protected, we can still crack it open, look at the contents inside, and then individually select messages to take them out and put them into another PST file centrally, that they could then be shipped if you wanted to, using disk shipping to Office 365, or we can just, without it touching the ground, put it straight into the individual user mailboxes in Office 365. And it's the scalability, the troubleshooting, the analysis, the deduplication. These are the sorts of things that you're going to get with TransVault that you don't get with PST Capture.
Lovely, thank you very much. This is another interesting question, which is really around sort of, I guess, partnership with TransVault and indeed pricing. This person says, much of the audience is small IT service providers who provide IT services to small and medium-sized companies. What will your services cost us? Perhaps we could just have a general answer about how our products are priced and indeed partnering with TransVault.
Yeah, sure. So we have I did touch on it lightly in the deck, that we have a partnering program. We actually I'm slightly embarrassed to say I can't remember the organization, but we got a 5-star award for our partnering program just this year. So it's an excellent partnering program. We put you through training, certification with our products to enable you to be able to deliver migrations. You do need to be an unauthorized TransVault partner to be able to transact a license with us. The partnering program is the partnering agreement is pretty lightweight, and we have alliance managers who you can get in touch with. If we can get your details, then we can put you in contact with the right people, and they can take you through the process of validating that it's the right thing for you, or whether you want to partner with one of our partners. We get that an awful lot. There's an ecosystem out there, and we frequently work with organizations that are 2-step removed from us, who are ultimately delivering the end customer's project. But you can go through that process of partnering with us. We'll train you up on the products, and it's at that point we can expose you to the specifics of the pricing. But what I can tell you about pricing at this stage is that we price the Insight product by the number of users within the organization. Now, with our traditional third-party archiving solutions like Migrator and Sprint, we price by the amount of compressed data in the source archiving system. And we kind of set that as an industry standard 10 years ago for how archive migrations are priced. But the PST migration projects are priced by the number of users in the organization. So as you have more users in the organization, the unit cost per user goes down. So you get an economy of scale with a bigger transaction. I think that just about covers it. I hope that answered your question about how to partner with us. I think the short answer of how to partner with us is make sure we've got your details and the right person will contact you.
That's great. So we'll pick up on that after the webinar. And I've just said the same to this person who's asking about saying they've got journaling in a third-party archive that they want to move to Office 365. So that's a very interesting topic. Office 365 deals with journaling in a different way to typical third-party archives. So I've suggested we take that offline and pick it up with you. TransVault is pretty unique in its ability to take a journal and put it into Office 365 in a compliant manner for how Microsoft's cloud expects to see that data. So yes, another one to take offline. We'll pick that one up with you.
Yeah, I think it's worth just quickly mentioning that that there are multiple solutions available for delivering a migration to Office 365 when it's the journal to move. The key thing to note with this is that we developed our solution with the products team from Office 365 in Redmond, with Microsoft Consulting Services in the UK, and with Microsoft Global Delivery out in India, to develop a solution that's been used on a number of very large migration projects, but is actually currently being used by one of the world's biggest banks to migrate their data to their journal data, well, all of their data actually, to Office 365, specifically the journal piece. If you don't use a tool like TransVault, which performs a very specific function that we call journal explosion, you will be falling foul of Microsoft licensing laws, and also it's highly likely that the data won't be discoverable. So this really precious, important compliance data won't be discoverable in Office 365. It sounds kind of scary, and it's really about how the data is reconstructed into the message that's being placed into Office 365. It's all around where the metadata sits and how the Office 365 compliance tools can pick it up. Because as Steve said, the model for journaling in 365 is completely different. So yeah, it's a huge subject that we could talk about in a whole separate session.
Excellent. Thank you for that clarification, Steve. Yeah, that's a very important point. Yeah, I think that's pretty much taken us to the end of the questions that have come in. Thank you for all of those. They've been great. And I'll pass back over to Harry.
Okay, great. Guys, I think what I want to do, I'm so determined Folks, one of the reasons we're having more fun with Tim is Jimmy, who normally was at the Tour de Cloud workshop tomorrow, came in late. Join us in Austin tomorrow, so you can find out more at tourdecloud.com. But I am going to run the first poll. I am darn determined that I fix the issue with the Firefox browser. Let's see if I can get that to come up just for giggles. Folks, you should be seeing, Steve, do you see the quick poll? Do you have an issue with PSTs, please?
I'm sorry, the sound was very poor. Were you asking me something there, Harry?
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, the poll's up. Forgive me. Poll's up. We're getting results. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can now, yeah.
Okay. 67% no. 33% yes. Folks, last chance. I'm going to close it and share it. Okay, there's the results. You'll be able to see that on your screen again. Just checking off on a couple of housekeeping items here. Poll number 1. Do you have an issue with PSTs? And it was 33% yes, 67% no. Just want to take care of that little bit of housekeeping. We are, I believe, at the end of the webinar, so thank you very much for taking time out of your day to let me drive and run the radio control room for the webinar here at KEXP in Seattle. And we have Steve and Steve coming to you from the UK. And we'll see you next week with the weekly webinar. Hopefully see you tomorrow in Austin, Texas for the Tour de Cloud, Azure, and Office 365. Gentlemen, thanks for your support in the community. Everybody else, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.